subscribe.
Okay, so write 72 as a product of its prime factors. So step 1, just write 72, draw true branches, think of a number that will multiply with another number to get you to 72. So I'm just going to pick 36 times 2. When you get a prime number, circle it. And then 36 is not a prime number, so you need another 2 branches. And then 6 times 6 will make 36. They're not prime numbers either, so then you're going to do another 2 branches, and then you've got 2 times 3. They are both prime numbers as well, so circle them. And then 6 is not a prime number, so you've got 2 branches. You've got 2 times 3, circle them. And then if you list them, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3, and then you can simplify that to 2 cubed times 3 squared. Pause the video and have a go at this question. Okay, so write 40 as a product of its prime factors. So we're going to write down 40. We're going to think of 2 numbers that multiply to make 40. That can be 4 and 10. It doesn't matter which combination you use as long as you get to 40. 4 is not a prime number, so I'll draw 2 branches, and you've got 2 and 2. And circle them because they're prime numbers. And then you've got 2 times 5, circle those because they are prime numbers. And then we're going to write down the product of its prime factors by doing 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. And that can be simplified down to 2 cubed times 5. Okay, so prove algebraically that the recurring decimal 0.78 recurring can be written as 26 over 33. So step 1, we're going to write x is equal to 0.78 recurring. And what we need to do is try to cancel out the recurring. So then we're going to multiply this by 10 to give us a 10x. That will move in place value to give us 7.87. If we were to subtract this, this would not cancel out. So what we would do is we would times it by 100. And that would give us 100x, which is going to be 78, and that's going to give us the 78 recurring there. If now we do the 100x, which is equal to 78.78 recurring, subtracting the x, which is 0.78 recurring, that's going to give us 99x, which is equal to 78. We will divide this by 99 on both sides. That will give us x equals 78 over 99. And that will simplify down to 26 over 33. Okay, pause the video and have a go at this question. So, prove algebraically that the recurring decimal 0.681 can be written as 15 over 22. So step 1, we're going to write this as x value, which equals 0.681 recurring. And then we're going to multiply this by the powers of 10. So we'll do a 10x. And that will move in place value to give you 6.81 recurring. And then if we do 100x, that will move from the x to place values, so that will give you 68.18 recurring. And then if we do 1000x, that will move over in place value to give you 681 and 81 recurring. And now you can see that the 81 recurring of the 10x and the 81 recurring of the 1000x line up. So when we subtract these, they will eliminate the 81 recurring, which is what we're trying to do. So if we do 1000x, which is equal to 681.81 recurring, subtract 10x, which is 6.81 recurring, We subtract that, we get 990x, and then the 81 recurring and 81 recurring cancel each other out. 681 subtract 6 will give us 675, and then if we divide by 990 on both sides, that gives us x is equal to 675 over 990, which will simplify down to 15 over 22. Okay, the mean of 8 numbers is 41. The mean of 2 of the numbers is 29. Work out the mean of the other 6 numbers. So we're going to work backwards. So when we do the mean, remember you add all your values of data together and divide by how many you have. But we're going to go the other way around. So we've got 8 numbers that gives us a mean of 41. So we're going to times them. 8 times 41. I'll write it on the side. That gives me 328. And then I've got the mean of 2 numbers, which is 29. So we've got 29 times 2, which gives me 58. Now if I subtract them, 328 minus 58, that gives me 270 left over, and that is the mean of the other 6 numbers. So 270 divided by 6, which equals, I'm not too sure what that is, so we can use the bus stop method on the non-calculator paper. So 6 goes into 27 4 times to get to 24. You got remainder 3, and 6 goes into 30 5 times to give you an average of 45. Okay, pause the video and have a go at your question. Okay, so in a class A, there are 10 students, and in class B, there are 20 students. The mean mark for both classes is 40. The mean mark for class A is 20. Work out the mean mark for class B. So this is an average question in reverse. We've got a total of 30 students. We want to work out the average was 40 for both classes, so we want to find out the total. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the 40 times by the 30 students. This will give us a total mark. So 4 times 3 is just 12, and we've got 0 and 0, so that's 1,200 marks. Then the mean mark for class A is 20, and there was only 10 students in that class, so 20 times the 10 students. 2 times 1 is 2, and then you got a 0 and a 0, so that is 200 marks for class A. If we do 1,200 minus the 200, that means class B got 1,000 marks, and to find out their average, that's 1,000 divided by the 20 students, and 20 will fit into 100 5 times, and then you've got the 0 there, and you put that there, and that gives you 50 marks for the average of class B. Okay, shown is a right angle triangle. Work out the perimeter of the triangle. So we know this side is 3, we know this side is 4, so quite simply we're going to use Pythagoras to figure out side C. So we've got a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 3 is going to be our a, 4 is going to be our b. So we've got 3 squared plus 4 squared. 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16. Add that together, you get 25. Square root 25, you have got 5. So c equals 5. Remember though, we are trying to find the perimeter, so we're going to add that up. So perimeter equals 3 plus 4 plus 5. That gives me a total of 12 centimeters for the perimeter. Pause the video and have a go at your question. Okay, so your question says the shape is made from 5 lines on a field. Work out the total length of all the lines. So you've got 8 and 6. Again, this is a Pythagoras question, which you're going to try to work out this long diagonal. So quite simply, you're just going to do 6 squared plus 8 squared equals the c squared. 6 squared is 36 plus 8 squared, which is 64. That gives you 100. Square root the 100, and that gives you 10. Actually, sorry, it's not 10 centimeters, it's 10 meters. So now you've got 10 meters for that diagonal. You know that this AD length is parallel to the BC length, so that's 6. You also know A to B is 8, and that's parallel to D to C, so that's 8 as well. And if you want to work out the total length, you've got 8 plus 8 plus 6 plus 6 plus 10, which if we add that up, you've got 10 plus 6, which is 16, plus another 6 is 22, plus 8 is 30, plus 8 is 38 meters in total. Okay, Tina has 2 bags of counters, bag A and bag B. There are 5 red counters and 3 blue counters in bag A. There are 4 red counters and 5 blue counters in bag B. Tina takes at random a counter from each bag. Work out the probability that Tina takes 2 blue counters. So you're going to draw a probability tree diagram. So you're going to draw 2 branches. You want either red option from bag A. I'm going to just put A, so this is the bag A. And then you've got a blue option. The red option is 5 counters, remember, out of a total of 8. And the blue option is 3 out of a possible 8. And then I'm going to draw 2 branches from here. And then the next possible outcomes I've got are from bag B. And then you're going to draw 2 branches from there. And in bag B, you've got option of red and blue again. However, in bag B, you've got 4 red out of 9 and 5 blue out of 9. And then again, you've got red and blue. This is all under bag B. So again, you've got red 4 out of 9. And then you've got blue, which is 5 out of 9 again. You want to work out the probability that Tina takes 2 blue counters. So I'm going to go with option blue and option blue. And remember, to work out the probability, you multiply each branch. So that's going to be 3/8 times 5/9. And 3 times 5 is 15. And 8 times 9 is just 72. And that is your probability. And you don't have to worry about simplifying it. You can just leave it like that. Pause the video and have a go at your question. Okay, so your question says, in the first bag, there are 4 red balls and 6 green balls. In the second bag, there are 3 red balls and 5 green balls. Rachel takes at random a ball from the first bag. She then takes at random a ball from the second bag. Work out the probability Rachel takes 1 ball of each color. So the red bag is, sorry, not the red bag. In the first bag, you got red, which is 4 out of a total of 4 plus 6, which is 10. And then the green is 6 out of 10. The second bag has got 3 red out of 5, so that's going to be 3 out of 8. And then the green option of the ball is 5 out of 8. And then again, for red, you're going to still have 3 out of 8. And then for green, you're going to have 5 out of 8. We're looking for Rachel taking out 1 ball of each color. So here, you've got red, green. So you can have red, green, which is going to be 4/10 times 5/8. And that'll give you 20 over 80. And then you could go green and then red on this option, which I'll just do down here. So you go green and then red, which would give you 6/10 times 3/8. That gives you 18 out of 80. And if you've got two outcomes at the end of each branch, then you add them together, and that'll give you 20/80 plus 18/80, which will give you 38/80 to get one ball of each color. Okay, n is an integer, which just means a whole number. Prove algebraically that the sum of n bracket n plus 1 and n plus 1 is always a square number. So remember, the sum just means to add. So I'll put an add in there, and we've got n bracket n plus 1, and then we've got plussing to n plus 1, and we're going to expand the bracket. So n times n gives me n squared, n times 1 will give me n, and that's plus n plus 1. We're going to collect this to give us n squared plus 2n plus 1, and then we need to factorize it so we can prove that it's always a square number. So if I factorize this, I can factorize it with a double bracket, and that would be n plus 1. So remember, times to make 1, but combined to make 2, so n plus 1 and n plus 1. That can be written as n plus 1 times itself, which would be squared. So anything inside this bracket squared will give me a squared number. So if n was 1, 1 plus 1 would equal 2, and 2 squared equals 4, so that would be a squared number. So it doesn't matter what n would be here, as long as it's an integer, it would get you a square number as shown in the example above. Pause the video and have a go at your question. Okay, so n is an integer. Prove 2n plus 1, 3n minus 2, minus 6n minus 1, n minus 2 is always even. So what we're going to try to do is factorize out a 2 or an even number, because if, for example, if I had 2 and in the bracket I had a number such as 1, 2 times 1 gives you 2, and that will leave you with an even number. Or, for example, if I had 2 and times it with any number such as like a 2, 2 times 2 gives you 4, and that is even number as well. So 2n squared times 3n gives us 6n squared. 2n times minus 2 will give us minus 4n. 1 times 3n gives us 3n. 1 times minus 2 gives us minus 2. And then we've got this minus here. And then we're just going to separate this by putting a bracket and do 6n times n, which is 6n squared. We've got 6n times minus 2, which is minus 12n. We've got minus 1 times n, which is minus n. We've got minus 1 times minus 2, which gives us a plus, remember. A minus times a minus gives us a plus 2. And then we're going to simplify these up. So here we'd have 6n squared. Minus 4n plus 3n is a minus n. And then you got minus 2 minus separated 6n squared. Minus 12n minus n is minus 13n. And then you got plus 2 there. Now 6n squared minus 6n squared, that will cancel. Minus n minus this minus 13n will give us a plus, so you end up with minus n plus 13n, which therefore gives you 12n. And then we've got minus 2 minus a plus 2. And remember, a minus plus a 2 gives us a minus, so that gives us minus 2 minus 2, which gives us minus 4. So we've got 12n minus 4, and we can factorize this to take out a 4 from each. So that gives us 4 bracket n minus 1. And remember, like we said, if we've got an even number on the outside, no matter what this was in on the inside, 4 times whatever this would be would give us an even number. So therefore we've proven that this would always be even. Okie doke. So we've got P is inversely proportional to Q, and when P equals 2, Q equals 2. So then we need to find the value of P when Q equals 8. So we're going to put P equals, remember inversely proportional, you'd put K over Q. And then we're just going to substitute the values. P is 2, K over Q is also 2. And we're going to try to find out the K constant. So we get rid of the 2 by doing the inverse, which is divide by 2, and the inverse would be times by 2. So that would be 2 times 2, which would give you 4 for K. Now we've got the constant. We're going to rewrite that whole thing again and put P equals K over Q. And we know what K is. We know K is 4. And we need to find the value of P when Q is 8. So we could put P equals, we know K is 4. We know Q is 8. And that is equivalent to a half. So P is just equal to a half. Okay, pause the video and have a go at your question. Okay, so your question, R is inversely proportional to the square root of S, and when R equals 1, S equals 36. Find the value of R when S equals 9. So remember, you put R equals K, inversely proportionate is K over, and it's the square root of S. So you're going to do the square root of S. When R equals 1, S equals 36, so that's the square root of 36, and the square root of 36 is just 6. So you got 1 equals K over 6, and again, we want to get the constant K by itself, so we do the inverse of dividing by 6, so we take this over, and it'll be times by 6. That then quite simply just gives us 6 equals K. We're now going to rewrite this again, and write R equals K over root of S. And we need to find the value of R when S equals 9. Well, we know what K is. K is 6 and S is 9. So that's the square root of 9. And the square root of 9 is just 3. So that'd be 6 over 3 for R. And 6 divided by 3 is just 2. So R would equal 2. And you're done. Okay. A cone has a radius of 5.3 centimeters and a height of 9.8 centimeters. Work out an estimate for the volume of the cone. The important word here is estimate, meaning you are not going to use the exact numbers in the question. So we're going to use the volume of the cone. They've given us the formula, a third times pi times r squared times the height. So we've got a third times pi times r squared times the height, and we're going to change the information here to an estimate. So we've got a third. Pi we're going to simplify down to 3. R squared is the radius squared, and we're going to round that down to 5 squared, and the height of 9.8 will round up to 10. So 5 squared is quite simply 25, and then you've got a third times 3 times 25 times 10. I'll do the 3 times 25, and that gives me a third times 3 times 25, which is 75 times 10. 75 divided by 3, which would give us a third, would just be 25 for this bit. And 25 times 10 would just give me an estimate for the volume of being 25 times 10 would just be 250 centimeters cubed. Okay, pause the video and have a go at your question. Okay, so your question, a cone has a volume of 595 centimeters. The radius of the cone is 9.8 centimeters. Work out estimate of the height of the cone. So again, we're going to use the formula for the volume of the cone, which is 1/3 times pi times the radius squared times the height. However, this time they've told you the volume, which is 595, and we're going to estimate it again, so we'll put that to 600. 600 equals 1/3 times pi times the radius squared, which we will round up to 10 squared, times the height. And what we're trying to do, remember here, is to find the height. So we've got pi, which I will change to 3, and 10 squared is going to be 100. So I'm just going to move up here. I've got 600 equals 1/3 times 3 times 10 squared, which is 100, times h. 3 times 100 would be 300. So I've got 1/3 of 300 times h, and the full volume is 600. 1/3 times 300 is the same as saying 300 divided by 3, so that would just be 100 times h, and 600 equals 100 times h. And to get the height by itself, I would just divide by 100 on both sides. So I'd have a height of 6 centimeters, which is the height. Okay, and you're done.